I was thinking about putting together like a memorial video for Chomsky, even though he's still alive. Like starting to work on it now because it's only a matter of time.
All the big companies do that.
Really interesting.
Yeah, that's my understanding. They did a little skit about it. Did you ever watch 30 Rock?
I did not.
It is a fantastic sitcom. It's hands down one of the best. So original, so funny. And they have one of the episodes where they're basically doing all these reels for these different, it's like deaths of celebrities and natural disasters and celebrities killed in these natural disasters. And so like they do like, you know, Morgan Freeman who died at this age in the hurricane. And yeah, that's the whole thing. But anyways, they had like a whole stockpile of them that they set up for that. I guess
makes sense.
What actually happens.
I thought we would extend last week's episode on DUI stops. Let's do some pot stops because this is probably more common than DUI stops for younger folks, wouldn't it be? I mean, I'm not sure what the numbers are.
Whether it's more common to be stopped for it or to have that be the excuse that they use to search the car. I'd say it's certainly probably the most prominent excuse that is used to search vehicles.
I'm just thinking about my own life experience.
They smell weed. They always smell weed, especially if you're young. If you're 19 and you get pulled over for speeding, they're going to smell weed in your car.
Most 19-year-olds do smell like pot. I mean, let's be honest. I certainly did.
Yeah.
You can't smoke it at home. You got to get in your car and go for a drive and smoke it. And that's when they get you.
They're on to us.
Can it be a Land Rover, possibly?
Hello. 10-4.
10-4, clear ballot.
Man, where are you spraying? Just spraying things in here? What are you doing? Put the window all the way down for me. Cool.
What are you doing? I need to start making notes.
There's the stop. So he already messed up, right? He rolled the window down completely. And the officer was slick here, right? He pulled up and knocked on the rear window to get him to roll down all the windows, basically, right? Is that what he's doing here?
Yeah, it seems so, yeah. But yeah, so you don't have to roll down your windows, by the way. Or you don't have to roll it all the way down. As long as you have enough space to communicate, that's all. He can ask you to do it, but you don't have to comply.
He gets him to roll down like all of his windows, basically. And he's seen him, the reason he pulled him over was he's seen him spraying the spray. I never understood the spray. It's not going to mask the odor of marijuana. It's just going to, add to the volume of odor.
And so that was why he pulled him over?
Well, he wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
Okay.
His window tint was too dark, of course.
Obviously.
This is Florida.
That's not.
But he's seen him spraying shit.
Which is why he felt like it was suspicious that he was spraying it, and that's why I pulled him over.
Well, it is kind of suspicious if you're a cop and you drive by somebody and they start spraying shit.
Yeah.
So we already saw one thing he did wrong, but there's plenty more we'll get to. We'll get into at the end here, but let's go through it. So the first thing they'll do is ask if you've consumed any drugs or alcohol. Don't admit to consuming any drugs or alcohol. Obviously, this is, they'll lull you into a false sense of security, feel like your buddy, and then they'll ask you questions. You gotta be on your guard, man. So the question, if he smells pot, in some states, it is probable cause to search the vehicle just for smelling pot. Either way, it's reasonable suspicion to pull you out of the vehicle. The states where it is probable cause, Arizona, Oklahoma, Michigan, Florida, Ohio, and most other states, it is probable cause to search the vehicle. Mm-hmm. Some states it's not. For example, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Washington, D.C., Maryland in general, Colorado, North Dakota, and Kentucky. It's not probable cause to search the vehicle just because they smell marijuana. And I wanted to make a point here. You can pretty much, like if you've ever been to a major city, they all smell like pot now. Every major city in the United States smells like pot now at all times. They can use this excuse basically for any traffic stop in the city.
Yeah. Me and my girlfriend were out last night walking down Frankfort Avenue. A bunch of lovely restaurants up in that area. And there's multiple vehicles I walk by just while we're walking down the street. Just everybody's smoking weed. So It's so
It's
ubiquitous,
ubiquitous
it's
at
so
this point,
common.
yeah.
Everyone's doing it, and it's cops are just having in the places where I guess they can use it as probable cause. They're having a field day with it, and even states like this where they can't, I guess, technically use it as probable cause. They're still going to use it as something to get you to submit to letting them search the vehicle or get you to admit to it. This a lot of little things like this that they use where in and of itself, they can't use that as evidence to, or use that for justification to search you or evidence for anything in court. They can bring it up and they can get you to tell on yourself, which is 90% of what ends up happening in these situations. You end up just telling on yourself, giving yourself up, putting yourself in a situation you didn't need to be in.
Well, even if you do everything right, it's still reasonable suspicion to pull you out of the vehicle and to initiate a DUI investigation. So we're assuming here that we do everything right in this particular stop. He'll pull you out of the vehicle. He could do the horizontal gaze nystagmus, the follow my finger test. He could do that one. Shouldn't really show clues for most drugs. They'll look for dilated pupils, obviously. If you're on amphetamines or like tryptamines, they'll look for glassy eyes for marijuana. But other than that, there's not a whole lot that they can determine with the horizontal gaze nystagmus test. The field sobriety tests are mostly what they rely on for drug stops. I have some experience with this, but I feel like it's not super common unless you're really fucked up, like on Xanax and stuff, falling over, that they're going to sort of go down this road, unless they find something in the vehicle, and then you're automatically going to get hit with a DUI. But the goal here is to prevent that scenario at all costs. And I'm recommending here that you try to record the stop with your phone however you can to get as much video evidence as possible to defend you in court. The field sobriety test is the main way that they will develop probable cause if it's one of those states where they can't use the smell or you don't have the smell. Could be prescription drugs or anything they can give you a DUI for. They could give you a DUI for nutmeg if they want to,
They could try. They could pull you into jail. They could arrest you. They could make you spend the night and try to get you to plea out. Whether
get you. Yep.
I mean that's how these things go. Like most people are not gonna go to trial for something like this. They're gonna get arrested that night, get out hopefully the next morning, get dragged to court and probation for a few months, and then they're going to end up getting some sort of offer to come in and serve another weekend or two, and you just plea out. So,
well, you wind up paying like $1,200 in the process.
Yeah, you end up paying a lot. So the technicalities of what's going to hold up in court don't really apply to these unless you want to really invest the time and money to make them apply.
Okay, so if you don't tell on yourself in the first part, they pull you out of the vehicle, you do the sobriety testing, you pass the sobriety testing with flying colors, they will ask you at this point if they can search the vehicle. They always do this. Tell them no. They will try to pressure you into it. They will try every trick in the book. They'll threaten you with all the crimes you've been committing, real or imagined. They'll find any little thing they can to sort of pressure you into it. Tell them no. If they ask you to search, you refuse, and you're recording this encounter, like a lot of times what they'll do is they'll say, oh, well, then I find probable cause this way. That's not going to look good in court for them. If they've been refused to search the vehicle and then they suddenly find probable cause, that's not going to look great on them. So if they decide that they do have probable cause, they will search the vehicle. What constitutes probable cause? So these are what they can search the vehicle for, basically, if you don't allow them to. A DUI arrest. So if they have enough clues to arrest you for DUI, then they will search the vehicle. If they smell pot in most states, as we covered, they will search the vehicle without asking, which is what happens to this gentleman. If there is any visible evidence of contraband, illegal contraband, they will search the vehicle. Or if you admit to some sort of crime, they will search the vehicle at that point, subsequent to arrest. A difference with the alcohol DUI is for the drug DUI, they're going to want you to do a blood draw. I don't think I've ever done this.
I haven't. I've had 3 DUI arrests, 2 for alcohol, 1 for drugs, marijuana. And I was young, stupid, and I told on myself almost immediately. So they didn't really have to do any of that other stuff. They had me on camera admitting it.
Yeah,
with the alcohol, there was no question. There was no bullshit my way out of that one. I was well and truly drunk. Yeah, I was doing 90 in a Corvette, swerving, and there, the guy followed me for like 4 miles. I never knew it. I'm just like speeding right along at 3 a.m, pissed drunk. Had a bottle of, I don't remember, some sort of whiskey. I lost the cap, so I just had this half-gallon sitting between my legs and a loaded pistol in the seat right beside me.
That's how we used to roll, dude. That's
Yeah.
that's what you do in your 20s.
You pull it over.
20.
It's like, have you been drinking? I literally just look up. I'm like,
I can't remember.
No, I've got the bottle of whiskey. He's just like holding the flashlight right on it. Like, what do you want me to say, man?
All right. So what they'll do with the blood draw here, they will ask you if they can do the blood draw, if they have to. If they don't have probable cause to search the vehicle or probable cause of some sort of crime, if there's no smell of pot, basically, or if you are in a state where pot smell isn't enough and they want to pursue a DUI investigation, they will ask you to submit to a blood draw or breathalyzer if they have reasonable suspicion that you were under the influence of any sort of drug or alcohol. If you choose the breathalyzer and you blow zeros, then they can force you to do the blood draw, basically. So maybe if you're out doing drugs and driving, maybe have a couple beers with it. I don't know if that would help or not, but if you refuse the blood draw, refusal to submit to blood draw is not probable cause for arrest in and of itself, but may be used in court in most states. Many states can easily get an electronic warrant for a blood draw in a short period of time. They're supposed to have evidence, though. The judge is supposed to have evidence, but typically they just sign it off. And with the blood draw, it's not as bad as the breathalyzer because even if you have drug metabolites in your blood, it's not conclusive evidence that you were under the influence. You know, if you pass the sobriety tests, but you have metabolites in your blood, you know, it's up to the jury really to determine.
And what are so on the blood test? Is that something that can be refused? Well, I guess you can. You can refuse it the same as you'd refuse any of the other field sobriety test, right? Or the breathalyzer.
It is considered the same under the state laws as refusing the breathalyzer.
Okay, so as refusing, because there's two. I believe you can refuse the field breathalyzer, but the one at the jail is the one that you can get in trouble for refusing, if memory serves. So I guess because it's calibrated better. Or...
Yeah, you're right. The portable breathalyzer the police have is not admissible in court whatsoever. Okay. It's only used for probable cause for arrest. It's less accurate. The one at the jail, the intoxilizer, that is the one where you lose your license for a year if you refuse it because of the implied consent laws. And the same thing goes for the blood draw. The difference being if you blow 0.08 in the intoxilizer, you're definitely going to get hit with DUI because that's the legal limit. There's no legal limit for metabolites in your blood, for especially like marijuana. You know, it's in your blood for so long. And also, let me go through this point by point so I don't lose track here.
Okay.
Let's have this pretty lady tell us all about it. This is California law, so it's a bit different. But
what we need to see is how much of the Delta 9 THC was in your blood at the time of the test, and how much of the carboxy THC was in your blood at the time of the test. What's the difference between the two? Well, if you're someone who consumes a lot of cannabis or consumes it regularly, you will almost always come up positive for carboxy. That's the latent component of marijuana or THC that's in your blood. That is not going to make you high. It has no impact on your impairment. So just because you came up positive for the latent component or the carboxy metabolite does not mean that you were impaired at the time of driving. What prosecutors rely on is that Delta 9 number. And some experts will say that if you were above a certain threshold, 5 nanograms per milliliter, let's say, of Delta 9 THC, that you must have been impaired for the purposes of driving. But here's the thing, cannabis does not work like alcohol. There is no number correlated to impairment the way there is for alcohol.
So the regular old blood draw that they do only has a positive negative for these drugs, but you can request a comprehensive metabolite panel, and that's what the defense attorneys here are recommending you do. That way, it shows exactly what was in your system at that time, because a blood draw obviously shows what's in your system, what actives are in your system, right? So if you're showing, just carboxy and not delta 9, then you haven't smoked in hours and you're fine. Yeah. That's pretty good defensive evidence. If you are unconscious at the time of the stop, they can do a blood draw without a warrant, thanks to the implied consent laws. So if you crash and you wreck your car and they take you to the hospital, they're going to draw your blood, basically.
Yeah, I think it's probably more something people with opiate DUIs would have to worry about. I've known several people that have nodded completely off while driving or while parked somewhere and wake up in the hospital and they have to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah. One thing of note here: if you say you wreck your car, right, and you get away, you get home. Once you're home, if the police show up at your home, then they can't force you to do a blood draw at that point. So
I guess because you're not driving at that point, so it's not a.
They're not allowed to because of some legal cases, precedents, but they wouldn't be able to use it really anyway because so much time has elapsed, and you could just say you drank when you got home, right?
Yeah.
But they can't force you to do it anyway if you make it home.
So it's not like that I guess chain of custody would be the wrong word, but that they didn't find you at the scene and were able to get a hold of you then. There's time had elapsed, enough time that had elapsed that you could have drank later, or your levels would be substantially different from when you had the wreck. So just not admissible.
Should you always refuse the blood draw? These are always complicated. You have to weigh your pros and cons. If you have felony contraband in the vehicle, then in my opinion, losing your license is the least of your concerns. Refuse it. There's no reason not to at that point. If you have a large amount of actives in your system at the time of the stop, you're probably going to be arrested anyway if your car reeks of pot.
I think also just to point it out, I thought of this when the lady was talking about the delta 9 versus the THC carboxy levels. It also kind of depends on, it's all important stuff and it's all incredibly relevant to whether or not you were impaired when you were driving. It's also important to point out that these distinctions are most like here in where you and I live in this area, these distinctions are going to be lost on the judges and the prosecutors. Certainly any jury members, or they might not care. I had during my second DUI, I had to do my classes. I distinctly remember this. The woman teaching the class, we were having this discussion about marijuana specifically, and she's saying, well, yeah, these things can show up in your system for a month, up to a month later, you can find this stuff in your system. And she wasn't even implying, she was outright saying that means that you are impaired for a month after smoking a joint. And I was kind of always been a contrarian. I spoke up. I was like, it's not correct. These are metabolites. I'm not a pharmaceutical student or anything like that, but I knew well enough to try to explain to her that these are metabolites and they're not psychoactive, and they just show that you use the chemical, whatever drug it was at some point, and it's not a sign of impairment. But point being, older people, I think you have to be careful with this stuff because these finer distinctions aren't necessarily going to mean anything to a lot of these prosecutors and judges.
Well, that's a good point. Anytime you're talking about the American criminal justice system, yeah. I mean, you have to realize that the truth isn't always good enough.
Yeah, or the science, the facts, it doesn't necessarily matter.
As I was saying, if you have a large amount of actives in your system, but if you pass the field sobriety testing, then the only evidence they could potentially have is the blood draw. So if you refuse the blood draw, you could definitely have your case tossed out. If they can get a warrant, then let them get the warrant. Refusal to submit blood is the same as refusing the intoxilizer. You will have your license suspended for the duration of the case, and then up to 18 months if you're convicted. And one thing I wanted to point out here, you cannot get a hardship license if you refuse the intoxilizer or the blood draw. So we talked about that a little bit last week. I wanted to make that point clear for everybody. So this is one of those decisions you have to weigh your pros and cons. If you've already failed the field sobriety testing, say they smell pot, then you fail the field sobriety testing. Well, refusing the blood draw is not really going to help you. You're going to lose in court anyway at that point. So if everything else you're good, and you know you're good, and you didn't tell on yourself, if you didn't fail the field sobriety testing, if they didn't smell pot because you weren't smoking when you were driving because you're responsible, then refuse the damn thing. That's the last piece of evidence they could potentially have against you. That would be my recommendation if you know you have actives in your system.
Yeah, sure. And just start off, try not to even let it get to that point. Start off the investigation just denying everything and invoking your Fifth Amendment right. This is also something I meant to say last week. Just being silent can be used against you in court. If you are wanting to invoke your Fifth Amendment rights, you have to vocalize that. You have to say, I'm invoking my rights. I'm choosing to remain silent. I'm choosing not to incriminate myself. I'm invoking the Fifth. Vocalize those. The cop is going to conduct an investigation. You let them conduct their investigation. You don't have to aid their investigation. You don't have to give them anything other than your name, your identification, any documentation about the vehicle you're driving, anything like that. Anything else, they have to find it out. Don't help them. That protects you from hopefully from getting to the point where these things start getting brought up, where the field sobriety tests start getting up, and intoxilizer and breathalyzer and all that stuff. You could probably, in some cases, certainly, you could prevent even getting to that point by just shutting your mouth, giving them as little information as possible, and reminding them that they cannot hold you there forever. If they don't have a reason to keep you, they have to let you go after a certain point. I think different states have different standards on how long a traffic stop can take. But generally, if they don't have anything kind of solid to hold you, it seems like around 15 to 20 minutes is as long as they can keep you there. Unless you give yourself up or you're very obviously drunk or have some warrants, something like that. But,
yeah, the timing on that's arbitrary. It's supposed to be reasonable, whatever that means.
It's
20 minutes is what they say.
Yeah, reasonable to conduct an investigation. I think with most it would be somewhere in that range, 15 to 20, 25 minutes, something like that.
And it's a good point you bring up about the Fifth Amendment, too, because if you do invoke your Fifth Amendment rights, they can't bring that up in court. They can't say he invoked his Fifth Amendment rights. They can't even mention it. They're not supposed to.
Yeah, they can't do that. They can bring up silence. And this was from the DUI guy.
That makes sense.
I learned this from him. If you just stay silent, don't say anything, they can't hold that against you. You have to, at some point, verbalize, I'm invoking my rights, whatever. And this is also where it's very important to have some sort of recording device, whether it's recording video or recording audio, just something to where you can prove at least what was said, what you said. Yeah, just invoke your rights and be polite to the officer. Don't answer any questions and continue to ask them if their investigation is up and are you being detained and am I free to go? Hopefully they don't get enough to even, yeah.
I love when you do that one. Audio's good, but video's better if you can get it. But at least audio, yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
If they determine that they have probable cause for arrest, they will then search the vehicle. And what they're saying is that they have evidence. They believe that they have evidence that you were under the influence while driving. They will search the vehicle, but that them finding something in the vehicle isn't evidence of probable cause. That's post facto evidence, right? So if the court determines that they didn't have reasonable suspicion for the stop, if there's, say, dash cam footage and you were driving perfectly fine, but they find 100 kilos of cocaine, it doesn't matter. It's getting thrown out because they didn't have reasonable suspicion. Same thing goes with probable cause. If the court determines they didn't have probable cause for the arrest, the whole case can be thrown out, regardless of what they find after the search. So bear that in mind, guys. That's why it's so important to do everything right and get as much evidence as you can. Kentucky law. Kentucky state law currently only allows police to get search warrants for blood draw in DUI cases that involve death or physical injury. So they can't just get an electronic warrant real quick if you refuse the blood draw in Kentucky. For now, they are the legislature's looking at that the first part of this year. They're supposed to, so who knows? That might change. But for right now, they can't force you to do a blood draw, basically. In Kentucky, at least.
Good to know.
Let's go back to our friend, the unlucky suspect here. Let's see what he does wrong. He does a few things wrong here.
Yeah. Hey, wait up. Wait, before you step out, do me a favor. Just keep your hands on the steering wheel for me. All right. So this is going to do. He's going to open up the door.
Look how far this cop is leaning into the vehicle. He's like basically in the vehicle.
Yeah.
And I want you to face him and slowly come down, okay? Come out. And I'm going to explain to you why. Okay? Don't make any movements, anything. Okay? Don't make it, don't. Watch that. Yeah. It's fine, it's fine.
So he immediately puts his hands behind his back.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. He knows the routine. He's been here before.
I think I've done this.
All right, come on. Let's go. Get this over with.
I remember this.
What is that over here? No, don't go for it. I just saw you something here.
Put your hands behind your back. You're not under arrest or anything like that.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
I was just.
We're just doing this for now.
What is this right here?
That's my money.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the deal. Before I stopped you, I saw you making movements. I think you were spraying. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if spraying is reasonable suspicion. Must be.
That sounds like nonsense.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. That is reasonable suspicion.
Yeah, the seatbelt is, but also this body cam footage is important. I mean, the cop can do this after the fact in a stop, say, oh, well, change his reason for pulling you over. But if they have it on video, and this video got brought up in court that they pulled him over because he was spraying, that's not a reason to pull somebody over. Hey, man, maybe he's been eating chili for the past 3 days. You never know.
Yeah, that seemed a little sus to me.
Yeah,
I mean, I know about the spraying. I mean, anybody smokes pot back in the day.
Yeah,
the spraying was a thing.
It could be that. It could be any number of other things, and the cops don't know. They're looking
a can of duster
through a tinted window. Yeah, so.
Yeah,
it looks suspicious. That's why he handcuffs right now, because I don't know if any guns inside the car or anything.
No.
Okay, so I see in plain view. So let me do this to you first. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you.
So he had a joint, plain view. That's what he's talking about here. So that's a big mistake, obviously. You don't have shit laying out in plain view. This is a medical state. This is in Florida.
Have a lawyer present with you, then a question.
Okay.
If you can't afford a lawyer, won't be appointed for you to represent you. All this means you have to talk to me at all. If you decide to talk to me, you may stop talking to me at any time, okay? I walk up, I see you spraying. Nowadays, 2020 is very unsafe because we don't know. Why are you spraying? You probably got some weed inside the car, which is not a big deal. Okay. Do you have medical marijuana card? Anything?
No, I just have a little.
No, it's fine.
Joint right there.
Okay. And this is just money?
Yeah, that's
You mind if I
fine.
retrieve it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bam. So he asks him if he can retrieve it, and he says yes, I guess.
Yeah, that money is gone, buddy.
Dude.
You'll never see that
Fuck
again.
yeah, it's gone.
It's civil forfeiture. Civil asset forfeiture. What's it called? Civil asset forfeiture?
Yeah, but they mention here that it's enough money to confiscate here in a few minutes when he goes back to his cruiser. He's talking with the sergeant. So I wonder if in Florida there's a certain limit before they can start stealing it. Like, we don't want the small bills. We want 20s and 100s, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know this. So you do make the movement, and then I see the bulging, and I'm like, man, is that a gun? You know what I'm saying? That's
It's a packet.
Those other
we
white
don't know
guy
what's
keeps
going
saying,
on.
you know what I'm saying.
How much?
It's 2,000, 3,000.
No, what's about?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Anything else? Like skis?
Don't walk around with cash like that in your pocket, dude. That's so stupid.
Yeah, move it.
Hide that shit in your car.
He's gonna move it. He's gonna move so he can go. Do you
What a
live
novice.
here?
Yeah, my own boy. Yeah, I was down in Florida. So it's because I was like, what was that?
Yeah, I'm stopping for you, Bell. I'm stopping you for your tent, which I know it's illegal. I'm going to show it to you how illegal it is. We have had a lot of shootings lately, so here's the deal. I don't care about the little weed. All I care about is getting all these people, getting these guns off the street, make sure kids stop dying, adults, all this bullshit going on. That's why. That's why you
Trying to get these guns off the street.
That's
I mean, this officer literally has a gun, so I don't know what he's talking about, really.
yeah.
gonna see us stop me for like minor infractions. They're gonna be like, man, you gonna stop me for the tent? Yeah, we will, because how we're gonna get. That's the only way we can kind of get out people. You know what I'm saying?
I have a little smoke right here, sir.
What was that mushmouth gobbledygook was he talking about?
He's admitting that we're pulling people over for tent because that's the way we can get them out and search them for guns.
Yeah.
How is that not like the most giant? Oh my God! Just completely.
Everybody's like, "Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, we got to get the bad guys." You know.
So we're just going to make stuff up to pull over law-abiding citizens.
Those tent laws, you know.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh,
I got you. I appreciate you. What's going on?
I bet you do appreciate it.
Okay.
So again, he had a joint out in the open and the smell of weed were the two probable cause. So he just searches the vehicle without asking him at this point.
Hi. Oh, they're way down there, center. If it comes in this way, then we. I'm gonna give it to you. I think the wall is here.
Looks like he's pulling into a spot here.
Where's your Florida?
It's going through his wallet.
Where's your Florida ID? Right here?
It's right
Any more money?
Okay, thank you.
Emergency service.
This is so upsetting, so disturbing.
It's almost. I mean, it's
They're
basically legal. It's basically legal at
They're
this point.
thugs. They're
Yeah,
thugs
exactly.
taking him down.
Exactly.
They're coming up with some just flimsy pretense to give them the slightest bit of legal leeway to shake this guy down and so that they can maybe get a promotion because they got enough bust and met their quota for the month. It's just vile. Fucking cops are vile.
Organized crime.
Yeah, they're criminals. Yeah, let's get these thugs off the street.
Well, he's about to commit another error here. So watch.
What are you doing? Delivering to your friend?
No, it was my first time.
Man, you smoked that much. Tell me how much. How much is this bag? How much you pay? How much you pay for it?
How much you pay for it? Did you catch that?
Yeah.
I'm just curiosity. 1,000. No.
There you go. Bam. There's a conviction right there.
Yep.
Dumbass, dude.
Yeah,
the cop lets him go at the end of this, but he gets cited and they take all his shit, obviously.
Yeah. Steal his money, steal his weed,
Yep.
ruin his night.
Well, I guess he had just under a pound. It must be a pound that's a felony in Florida because he had just under a pound. So yeah, he made a few mistakes there.
But it was just under a pound. I know in Kentucky it's 8 ounces. Anything over 8 ounces, they consider it. The possession of more than 8 ounces is not a felony. But if you possess over 8 ounces, there is an assumption that you are trafficking, which is
So they automatically charge you, or that's sufficient evidence to convict you for a felony for trafficking?
No, that's what they'll charge you with. They charge you with it, and of course, in most cases, you're going to end up pleading out, so they don't have to even go to court and argue their case. But
interesting,
yeah, you'll get charged with it because there's an assumption. If you have over 8 ounces,
based on what? Just based on the quantity?
Yeah, just based on the quantity.
It's so dirty.
So that's incidentally, that's also the same reason that growing 5 or more marijuana plants is a felony, because there's an assumption if you're growing that many marijuana plants that it's going to be for trafficking purposes.
So they're basically overcharging
Yeah.
in order to plead down into a larger sentence.
Yeah. I mean, and actually, that's how I beat
Art of the
mine.
deal, baby.
I had, I think it was 23 plants that I got busted with. And I successfully, or my lawyer successfully argued that they were all for my personal use and that I'm a stingy guy and wasn't going to even let anybody have a joint out of my 23 marijuana plants.
The lawyer destroyed his own client's character.
Don't even ask me, James. You're not getting a single joint. I am not going to sale or transfer any of this. And yeah. So I got to knock down that.
I mean, as much as you used to stare at them fucking plants, it wouldn't surprise me if you were stingy.
Oh, they're so beautiful. Okay, so this game is Tony's on the specs. So this game is kind of a response to me and you going back and forth about characterizing certain individuals as being left wing or right wing based on certain positions they hold, certain statements they make, and so I thought it would be interesting to make a game of it. So I've compiled a number of positions and quotes from a few individuals. Some of the quotes have been paraphrased so as not to give away information about who they may be, but I have tried to be as objective as possible in all the information I'm giving, not put any spin on it, and the quotes that are paraphrased, I've tried not to take anything away from them.
So just from a quote, I'm supposed to determine their political.
Well, no, I'm going to give you a series of quotes and or positions.
Okay.
All right. Now, some of these things are going to be kind of political, foreign policy, economic, and then also little things about their personal life and I guess their character, and so you're going to try to make a determination about where on the political spectrum they're going to lie based on this information.
Oh, great. I love judging others.
Yeah.
My favorite pastime.
It's the best. And I don't know how I kind of went back and forth about how we should actually do the judging, like how it should work, because these people, they're not necessarily Democrats, Republicans. So you just do it wherever you want. You know,
Gotcha.
Authoritarian left, libertarian right, whatever. So
Weak men make strong times. Is that it?
yeah, something like that. All right. So our first individual. This person traveled to Cuba in 1968 to plant coffee trees for the Castro government.
Interesting. 60
Years later, commenting on Cuba, said, Che's death meant a lot to me and countless like me at the time. He was a role model, albeit an impossible one for us bourgeois romantics, insofar as he went and did what revolutionaries were meant to do, fought and died for his beliefs. This person once told a libertarian he was speaking with, deep down, I've always been a sympathizer of the libertarian anti-statist point of view. One of the things that attracted me to socialism in the beginning was the idea of the withering away of the state. Later on, said, I am no longer a socialist, but I am still a Marxist. On objectivism, this person said, I have always found it quaint and rather touching that there is a movement in the U.S. that thinks that Americans are not yet selfish enough. Prior to 2001, attacked Bush's non-interventionist policies. Referred to themselves as having been a single-issue voter on the essential question of defending civilization against Islamic terrorists and their totalitarian protectors. Considered the American Constitution to be the most radical and revolutionary document mankind has ever published, and was friends with and wrote a glowing review of Paul Wolfowitz.
Oh, that's a monkey wrench at the end there.
Yeah.
Glowing review
Yeah.
of Wolfowitz?
Also, yeah, of Wolfowitz was a fierce advocate for the invasion of Iraq.
I think I know
So
who this is, and this is a tough one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I believe this would be the great Christopher Hitchens.
God, damn, you got that one.
I knew the quote. I knew the quote.
Oh, did you? Okay. Yeah, he also has a great quote that kind of goes along with this. He says, "One's conservatism grows with their waistband."
That's a
As
good
you
one.
get older and fatter, you get more conservative.
I love Hitchens, man.
Yeah, he's the best.
Well, early Hitchens was a socialist. He was a Trotskyist. But
he traveled to Cuba to help the revolution there. He traveled, I want to say Poland. There's some places in Eastern Europe. He got on the other side of the Iron Curtain and did a lot of work. Helped a lot of independence movements, and I think he went to Romania and helped with this anti-Ceausescu underground group. A lot of crazy stuff. And got to be good buddies with Wolfowitz.
He went to visit the Kurds, and he got in good with the Kurds, and he made a lot of friends there. And that's when his position on Iraq really changed because of Saddam's treatment of the Kurds.
Yeah. So I always like to point this out. His advocacy for the invasion of Iraq was like he was making a Marxist radical revolutionary position on it, that we have this secular democratic group in Iraq that has been attacked and oppressed and is nearly wiped out by this quasi-religious authoritarian dictator, and we have a responsibility to protect them. So whether right or wrong, and there's certainly, I think, both in that stance, but that's what it was. It was not the flag-waving American position, but anyways, okay. Well, but I don't know, where does he stand? Who is he? Where is he on the political spectrum?
That's tough, man.
We know who he is, Christopher Hitchens, the great contrarian and
he's a libertarian centrist. I would put him as a libertarian centrist, probably.
That's pretty good. Yeah, okay. I would probably agree with that. But okay, so we're going to move on to the next one. This person relentlessly advocated for the death penalty for the Central Park Five, a group of black and Latino kids wrongfully convicted of raping a woman in New York. I believe this was during the 80s.
Wait, the death of them? They advocate for the death after they were found out not to be.
No, so this was prior to. At the time, it was very obvious, I think, to most people that these kids were innocent, and there were certain groups of people. This is in New York, where they had abolished the death penalty, that were advocating the death penalty be brought back to execute these kids that it seemed very likely at the time were
Yikes.
not guilty.
Okay, continue.
Okay. This person once said, "What's the purpose of a country if you're not going to have health care? If you can't take care of your sick? I believe in universal health care. I believe in whatever it takes to make people well and better."
It's an odd thing to say at the end
Okay.
there.
This person said, "I support a ban on assault weapons." In regards to Iraq, this person said, "Does anybody really believe Iraq is going to be a democracy? As soon as we leave there will be a revolution where the worst guy will take over and he'll end up with the WMDs that Saddam didn't have." Ooh, throwing shade at the Bush administration there.
How would that work?
I don't know. I don't know, but that's what's going to happen, apparently. Also said, in regards to Iraq, what was the purpose of this whole thing? Hundreds of young people killed, people coming back with no arms and legs, not to mention the other side, all of those Iraqis who've been blown to pieces. And it turns out that all the reasons for the war were blatantly wrong. All of this for nothing.
I don't know who this is. Interesting.
Okay. This person also, say, grew up with incredible wealth. And they said the Electoral College is a disaster for democracy. The Electoral College has made a laughingstock of this country. The fact that more votes can equal a loss is shameful.
Wow.
Person also supported lowering taxes evenly across the board. Their plan was attacked by members of the left for disproportionately helping the wealthy and business interests, and has broad support by a large portion of the working class. So,
okay, I think I have a clue who this is.
You don't have to pick who it is, but where are you putting this person on the spectrum?
They have a broad support.
Who they are.
Okay, just pretending like I don't know who this is. The broad support from the working class. The problem is, to be a leftist, you have to support labor, and without knowing their position on labor, it's really impossible to say. But I would guess, maybe sort of sounds like a sort of normal neoliberal position. So I guess they're either like a left-wing Republican or sort of a centrist Democrat.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is Donald Trump.
I've kind of guessed toward the end there.
Yeah,
you didn't get any quotes that sounded like Trump's, which kind of threw me off.
That's why I had to put the little addendum in the title that I had to change some of the quotes.
Just because of that one.
It's basically just him, because if I did it like him, then it's like this wandering stream of consciousness talking. And so I edited it a little bit, made it sound better.
Yeah, he was a Democrat. He switched sides. If you call it two sides, which I don't know.
He was a Clintonite. He was a good friend of Hillary Clinton. Spoke
Clinton was great for billionaires.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. Damn, you're 2 for 2 and knowing exactly who they were. So that's good. All right. Here we got another. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
This person was also incredibly wealthy. A staunch defender of the armed forces and military expansionism. They advocated a policy of redistributing public land to the poor. They helped rework the government welfare system by cutting food dole in half while instituting an unprecedented and successful public works program to reduce unemployment and partially replace funds missing from the food dole. Believed in tight federal control over the economy, held some extreme authoritarian views, was constantly involved in schemes widely considered illegal to help get their agenda pushed through, had constant feuds with the established aristocracy over use of public funds to help the poor and improve conditions for government workers, was hated by the most conservative politician at the time, and gave away almost all his money upon his death. Where is this person on the spectrum?
This could be a Marxist-Leninist. It also could be I'm trying to think of who else it could even be. It could be an early Democrat like LBJ or something, I guess. If I had to guess, I'd probably say you picked a Marxist-Leninist here, but this is sort of just gaming the system at this point.
Yeah. Okay. This was Julius Caesar.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he certainly had some extreme authoritarian views. He was a military expansionist. He was a military expansionist, but he did a lot. He gained his power by kind of being the champion of the poor and of the military in particular. So those were the government workers I was talking about. And he pissed off the aristocracy of the time by using the government as a tool to. Normally, this is for his own aggrandizement, but he had the poor and the masses side with him through his generous use of public funds to increase his own power. So
interesting.
Right. One last one. This is my daughter's favorite when I was playing this game with her.
Okay.
She got the biggest kick out of this. So this person taught physics and mathematics, donated generously to artistic foundations. They also worked for the banking giant Bear Stearns. They started multiple high-level financial businesses doing, among other things, helping recover lost and embezzled money from fraud cases.
That's good.
Worked extensively to document sex crimes from powerful people. Donated hefty sums to democratic causes. Worked with leading scientists on green energy initiatives. And a high-level Democrat once lauded this person as a committed philanthropist with insights and generosity. This person also had a strong interest in improving the human race through genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and was also known to have a deep interest in eugenics. And they founded an initiative to educate and help young girls get out of poverty domestically and abroad. So,
this could be
where
Peter
does this-
Thiel or Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not sure which one.
Okay. God damn it. It is Jeffrey Epstein. It is Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, the documented sex crimes, it kind of narrowed it down a little bit.
Yeah. So in this one, it wasn't his sex crimes he was documenting. He allegedly would have had videos made of all the encounters that people were having on his island and has all these locked away somewhere in a vault.
Oh, yeah. Epstein was he was probably Israeli intelligence, wasn't he? He was either American or Israeli intelligence.
Yeah, it's everybody I hear that talks about this seems to think that he was Israeli intelligence. And,
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
so they're supposed
in our
to be
sick world.
Yeah, he is supposed to have documents of all the princes and whatever. But yeah, so he did help recover lost funds from embezzlement and fraud cases. He also helped people that had embezzled and defrauded people hide their illicit money. Donated hefty to Democratic causes. The high-level Democrat was Bill Clinton, that lauded Epstein as a committed philanthropist and was insightful and generous. The genetic engineering
What's
Epstein. So apparently he was just in general interested in genetic engineering and artificial intelligence, but had also, I guess, spoken about and suggested using his sperm for the genetic engineering and for this kind of engineering of a new human race, where we basically all be
I mean, that's what you would do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay. But anyway, so where is Jeffrey Epstein on the spectrum?
Oh, gosh.
We know who he is. We need to know where he lies on the spectrum.
I mean, he's definitely a weird guy. He's got some issues. Where did he get all his money? Where's all the video recordings of all the high-level figures with the girls? We'll never know, will we?
We never will.
On the political spectrum, though, anybody who's that friendly with Bill Clinton has to be a neocon. He's a neoconservative, especially working for the Israelis. I mean, gosh, those guys are right-wing as hell, dude.
Yeah. Worked for Bear Stearns, had all sorts of hedge funds, Israeli intelligence. I think neocon is right on the money. Some of the Epstein documents that were supposed to get uncovered, I don't know, and they just put these two lawyers or these two judges to look at whether or not some of these documents should be unsealed. And the two judges that they put on there happen to be the two judges that railroaded Stephen Donziger. And so there's kind of this speculation now, and that they are going to ensure that these things don't come out because, you know, they know all the well-connected people that could look bad. I think it was Larry Kaplan, and then it was Loretta Preska. They just got put, like, within the past couple weeks, they got put in charge of being the ones to make a determination on whether or not some of Epstein's files were going to get released. So that they are reviewing whether or not some of these files and documents that Epstein had are going to get released to the public.
Interesting.
So So
I'll keep an eye on that.
the assumption and the conspiracy is that they were put on there in particular because they're going to make sure that these things either
Never sees
don't
the light
get
of day.
released
Yeah.
or they're redacted to such a degree that certain people's names.
Ladies and gentlemen, check out my website, MetamaxPerformance.com. We have pure nootropic compounds at the lowest prices in the industry. We are running a winter sale right now, 15% off your entire order. Discount code WINTER. Check it out, MetamaxPerformance.com.
ShireHempFarms.com, your number one source for Kentucky-grown CBD and Delta-8 products. We have the lowest prices guaranteed anywhere. Come to Shire Hemp and get wholesale pricing on Delta-8 vape cards. What? Come check us out. Support small farms. Support local businesses. Support this podcast. ShireHempFarms.com.
Let's talk about Dollar Tree. They've been in the news quite a bit recently. This company is such a scumbag, dude. This is a Fortune 500 company with projected sales to reach $19 billion for 2020. And they just completed the purchase of their main competitor. Dollar General was the rural dollar store.
Yeah,
Family
that's what we
Dollar
have out
was
here.
Family Dollar was the urban. Family Dollar and Dollar Tree are the two urban players, and so Dollar Tree bought Family Dollar to buy their competition. Here is a press release on the merger. Quote, "We are pleased to announce that we have completed our acquisition of Family Dollar, and we formally welcome the Family Dollar team to the Dollar Tree organization," stated Bob Sasser, Chief Executive Officer. "This is a transformational opportunity for our business to offer broader, more compelling merchandise assortments with greater values to a wider array of customers. This acquisition will extend our reach to low-income customers. While strengthening and diversifying our footprint, we plan to leverage best practices across both organizations to deliver significant cost synergies. Combined, our growth potential is enhanced with improved opportunities to increase store productivity and to open more stores across multiple banners." So they do tell you basically what's going on here. So the manufacturing base of Dollar Tree is 42% from China, so almost half. Not as high as I thought it was, actually. It's only 42%. Dollar General imports only 23% of its goods, and that's, again, mostly from China. So we have to send all of our U.S. currency to China. This is called a trade deficit. This is a gross export of monetary value of money to China from the United States. Why is it cheaper to import goods from halfway across the globe than to make them at home, Tony?
Slave labor.
Well, they don't call it that. They call it re-education camps.
Ah, okay.
Chinese factory workers make less than 1/10 of their equivalent American counterparts. The point I wanted to make here, obviously, is externalities, like making the shit in China and then shipping it here in oil tankers, diesel tankers. I mean, we're destroying the fucking planet, dude, in order to crush wages in this country and deliver cheap goods to Americans. The cheaper the goods, the less we have to pay them.
Yeah.
They are scummy to their employees. Here is Indeed's report on Dollar Tree. How much does Dollar Tree pay? Cashiers, $8.66 an hour.
Oh my God.
That's most of their employees. Store manager, $44,000, pretty shitty for a store manager. Warehouse workers, $13,000, that's very low for the warehouse industry. Okay, warehouse worker, $1,654, so that's about entry level. Warehouse associate, $13,000. Crap. Bagger, $10.75. Forklift operator. So they have all these. They have all these reviews. Salary satisfaction, 28%. Few people think they are paid fairly at Dollar Tree based on 43,000 ratings. How much do you think the CEOs make, I wonder? Since the workers are paid so poorly, surely the CEOs are paid poorly.
But James, if we paid them more, how could we get all these great values to these low-income communities? How can they buy their corn syrup, just corn syrup, I guess, for 50 cents if we don't pay people working there at poverty wages?
Well, that's why I wanted to talk about Family Dollar. They're raising their prices by 25% across the board for all these low-income people they care about. Bob Sasser made $6.5 million in total compensation last year. That's 1 year. Mostly in equity, $5.5 million in stock options, basically. $1 million cash, $71,000 in random bonuses and shit.
Dude, I'd be happy with the other. Just the bonus.
For 20, Gary Philbin was the previous CEO. Last year, he made $10 million almost, $9.5 million. I mean, these are enormous salaries. $4 million for the chief financial officer. Yeah. These guys are getting paid, dude. How do their employees like working there? What are the comparably ratings for Dollar Tree? Let's see. An F. Dollar Tree's compensation is ranked an F in the bottom 5% of 665 similarly sized companies on Comparably. They pay their employees worse than almost anyone in the market. Here's a look at their profits. In 2021, they made $1.3 billion in profits. 1.3 billion with a B.
Ew.
And they are
2019.
Please note that these numbers are net income. The loss they reported in quarter 2 of 2019 seems not to be a product of a loss in revenue or increased expenses, as net sales were up, net income was up by $282 million, and share price increased 11%, but by a planned purchase of their own stock, some $700 million worth. This is called stock buybacks and used to be illegal until the Ronald Reagan administration did away with the rules preventing this consolidation of wealth.
The point I want to make here is the reason that these CEOs are making $10 million a year in salary is because their workers are paid freaking $9 an hour. That's why. Why is Dollar Tree so evil? Disparities in compensation, what we just went over. Their cashiers are making $8 an hour, and the CEO is making $10 million a year. Outsourcing of jobs. Since 2001, the United States has lost 2.8 million manufacturing jobs, mostly to China. These are unskilled labor positions that actually pay decently well. That's why it sucks losing manufacturing jobs. Why else are they evil? They provide cheap, underpriced goods to American workers so they can survive on lower pay. They drive small businesses out of business, especially in poor communities, making the communities even poorer. For example, instead of a locally owned discount shop like we had when I was a kid, they keep keeping the money in the local community. You get Family Dollar in here to outsource the wealth, basically, to extract all the wealth to New York and California and wherever else these companies' headquarters are. They buy up all their competition like they just did, and they're raising their prices across the board by 25%. That's going to hit hard for the people who have to shop here. That's a 25% price increase across the board. That's an enormous increase in prices, dude. For any business, that'd be ridiculous for any other business.
Yeah, well, you monopolize the market. You run out any of your local companies, little consignment shops, little local grocery stores, and then once you have a monopoly on the market, you can kind of do what you want.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence that they're raising the prices right after this merger is complete.
Yeah. I would also be interested because I know that generally these stores, they're not putting these stores in wealthy areas. These are going in predominantly the poorest of poor areas. I would love to see what what kind of programs, basically, what kind of subsidies they're getting to operate in these low income areas to hire low income individuals. I mean, I know these programs exist. I know there's a lot of them in Louisville, Jefferson County, where they'll pay like up to half the salary of certain individuals just to hire them. So,
Well, there's been a lot of news coverage about the inflation, right? So basically, this price increase is inflation. People raise their prices, that's inflation. Well, the thing is, if their costs are going up, which I'm not sure they are, but if they are going up, they have an alternative to raising prices. They could, for example, make less money themselves. The CEOs run the company. They could choose to pay themselves less. They're already extremely wealthy. But instead of that, they're going to extract it out of the communities from which they implanted themselves. And when it comes to subsidies, these major companies like this extract tons of subsidies out of the state governments. They have to get these governments to grovel and beg to move their fucking shitty dollar stores into their neighborhoods. The companies make the states compete against each other to see who will give them the lowest taxes, and then they move there. It's the exact opposite of the situation you want to have for a society.
yeah, it's preying on the poorest and preying on the hardest hit communities. It's just preying on the hardest hit communities and doing one little extra bit to try to extract the little bit of wealth that remains there and just take it elsewhere, and not really provide much to the community in return. There's
nothing.
Very few, if any, redeeming factors to it. They're not good jobs. It's not good quality foods, not good quality products that they're bringing to those communities. And
it's not made with American labor. It's made with fucking Chinese labor.
Yeah. It's
another point about the subsidies I wanted to make before I forget here. These employees who are making these low wages, they are heavily subsidized by the U.S. taxpayers through food stamps and other social services, whatever there are in your area. So yeah, they're all on food stamps. It's just like Walmart workers. They're all getting Medicaid. If a lot of them are getting Medicaid, they're paid so little. Yeah, they're very heavily subsidized, and those subsidies are going directly to the CEO and other executive bonuses and pay. Dollar Tree was one of half of the 100 companies mentioned in the Institute for Policy Studies report on corporate greed during the pandemic. If you remember this, here's a Daily Mail article on it. Half of the 100 largest U.S. employers of low-wage workers rigged CEO pay to increase their compensation while cutting worker salaries and laying off staff during the pandemic, study finds. Of the 100 S&P 500 firms with the lowest median worker wages, 51 bent their own rules in 2020 to pump up executive paychecks. CEOs made on average 830 times more than workers, and the left-leaning think tank is calling for measures to rein in extreme pay gaps. While many CEOs publicly pledged to take pay cuts during the pandemic last year, the study finds that some quietly made up the difference with bonuses, in some cases while they slashed worker pay and laid off employees. So what they did was they said they're going to take a pay cut, and they did, but they also added bonuses to make up the difference. So they made the same amount of money. And Dollar Tree was one of the companies involved in this.
Of course they were.
At the discount retail chain Dollar Tree, executives failed to meet their 2020 bonus targets. The Dollar Tree board awarded them the restricted stock grants with approximately the same value, the study found. Dollar Tree's new CEO, Michael Watinsky, who spent less than 6 months in the top post in 2020, got a bonus valued at about $1.5 million, boosting his total compensation to $11.3 million, the study claims. That's 715 times as much as the pay for the company's median worker, a part-time U.S. store employee who earned $15,000. So do you think this fucking guy here works 715 times harder than the median employee? Somehow doubt it. Certainly don't think his labor is 715 times more valuable, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Look at this turd.
To have that mentality that, like, their compensation can never go down, their bonuses can never be cut, it always has to be made up somehow or another. And I don't know if you've ever known anybody that's worked at one of these stores, but it's just a constant fight with the management to get the hours that you're asking for, to get the pay that you're supposed to have. They're always looking for reasons to take a little bit more from you. And I don't know. It always disgusts me when you hear about the CEOs, like they pulled some little trick to get around paying taxes, to get around claiming
Because
as much money as they made.
all their compensation is in stock options, or a lot of it. So the only thing they care about is that stock price going up. And for that, the company needs to grow forever. Everything needs to grow forever in the system. It's stupid. That's why freaking Manchin's not going to pass anything that could hurt the oil industry. He wants the oil industry to keep growing because he owns a ton of stock in oil and gas. The oil and gas industry needs to be capped. It needs to be capped and reduced, and it's still growing. Like, it's literally still growing, this oil and gas industry.
Not just grow, but grow more than it did last year.
Of course, that's how they get their bonuses.
Exponential growth.
That's where the bonuses come from.
We can't just have a steady 2% increase in profits year to year, or just make a profit year to year. It has to increase the profit each year. It's always coming at the expense of the workers. Or
exactly. It's squeezed out of the workers and the communities where these stores are. Going to charge 25 cents more for every item in the store. That's a big expenditure, man. If that's like the main store in your community, that's a lot of money, dude. They're extracting out of that community. There's no defending the actions of these executives for any moral reasons. They have to be defended from a zealous belief in American free market capitalism. That's my opinion there. That's my editorializing. This is the system that both parties, the quasi-fascist Republicans and the neoliberal Democrats, are trying to convince you is the best way to organize society. I would argue that the only people who should be deciding how much the executives should make are the workers who actually do the work, not the other way around. I would also argue that the only people who have a moral right to own a, quote, share of Dollar Tree are the people, again, who actually do the work. Work is what creates value in society, not capitalist property rights. That's my soapbox for the day. That's Dollar Tree. This company, like I said, it's been in the news, the COVID stuff and the price increase and the merger. It's just a shame, man.
Let's go back just real quick. What was it? It said the average. One of those articles said the average worker, part-time worker, makes $15,000 a year.
The median worker makes $15,000 a year and is part-time.
Okay. All right, $15,000 a year. That's a little over $1,000 a month. What do you spend on food a month? You probably spend more than the average person.
Well, I have a family of 4, so we probably spend at least $600.
$600 a month. Okay. So you're increasing that by 25%.
God.
$750 a month.
Yeah.
So that's extra $150 a month. If you're somebody, just some single person working there, let's say you spend $200 a month. Now you're going up. I mean, it's a week's pay.
Well, the people that work in these places often shop at the places too a lot because they live there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the point. So you're a single person. You're working part time here. Maybe you're trying to go to school part time also. You have to spend $250 a month on food. First off, that's a quarter of your pay. Now it gets increased by 25%. So that's an additional. Trying to do math. It's additional $62. I mean, what is that? That's probably a couple part-time days' pay just on the increase on something you have to have on your food for the month. I don't know. It's.
Oh, Michael Witinsky has got to get his bonus. He's got vacations to go on, Tony.
Has to.
What was the article with Elon Musk like traveling? Did you see all the travel he was doing? I don't want to get into it.
Yeah, Jesus.
$10 million a year. Could you imagine? What would you do with that much money, dude?
I don't know. I'd probably take a year. I'd just take a year and just do it, kind of knock a bunch of stuff off my bucket list. And after that, I don't think I'd have any use for it after that, honestly.
You invest it in the stock market, and then all the workers have to make you more money out of the money you have. See?
Yes. I don't. I honestly I don't understand. I don't know. I do understand the appeal a little bit, but I don't understand I couldn't get it at the expense of my morals and my principles. I feel like I'm at that point in my life.
Your morals and principles would change after that first 10 million.
Yeah, most likely. Start reading Ayn Rand and.
I love Michael Malice.
Okay, cool.
Appreciate you coming on the
James,
show,
it was
man.
fun.
Good times.
Awesome as usual. See you next week. Peace.
Later, man.